就结束。但是 Q&A 环节呢，从12点到2点，我们在车上进行。So please start it. 我们开始。
Thank you very much, Zoe. Good morning. I hope you had a pleasant night last night. I'm going to try and find a spot here that isn't in the sun.
If you come up on this way, so come down. 照着眼睛啊。
There we are. Okay, yesterday we talked about the 4 key elements of long-term business success. Operate, control, eliminate, and create. And we focused particularly on eliminate and how difficult that was, and control and how tricky that was. We left creation for today, and creation is where it all starts. If the creation doesn't work, the business is not going to work in the long term. So today we're going to talk about the historic ideas about creativity and where it comes from. And I'm starting with this picture from the French painter Manet in about 1830. And at that time, this picture was viewed as a radically creative picture. And see if you can figure out why it was viewed as a radically creative picture. I'll give you a couple of seconds, and then we'll return at the end of the talk to see.
就给大家30秒时间想一想，这张照片是1830年莫奈，大家知道莫奈，画家莫奈当时画的一幅画。这幅画的当代在1830年左右会被认为是非常非常有创意的、有创造力的一幅画。大家想一想，然后我们未来1个半小时大家都在想，最后呢还会把这个图调出来让大家看一看，它哪一点是有创造力的。
So this isn't going to be a universal history of creativity. This is going to be a brief history of creativity, because if it was a universal history, we'd be here for months.
所以大家今天一点课呢是用一个简短的历史把创造力这个概念给大家讲一遍。大家不要看着中文翻译，中文翻译叫赋能中国创新，英文名字呢叫做一个关于创造力的简短的历史，大概从公元前7万年到现在讲一下。
And it's going to be a mostly Western view of the history of creativity, because while I have looked for 30 years, I can't find a Confucian history of creativity. So we'll come back to that thought later on. So this will be a Western view through Western eyes.
但是它这个创造力和创新概念的历史，主要是从西方人的角度来讲。他看了中国的历史，包括我们孔夫子这个儒家思想，感觉创造力和这个西方的不大一样。所以他很难找到一些中国传统思想关于创新的观点。所以说他主要讲西方人，这是福斯特的翻译。而我呢，我作为他的助教，我一直研究中国创新跟西方创新的关系，然后我也会打断一下，就是为什么中国人有没有创造力？我们经济这么好了，难道我们没有创造力吗？这几个问题。
I'm going to start by saying what I think creativity is not. Creativity, we think of it as the great painter, the fellow who can think about the next idea possible, but it isn't too theoretical. You wonder about whether you're the person who can be creative. Aren't other creative people smarter or more insightful than I am? And how can you do it better? We're going to try and answer all those questions today.
今天大家会回答大家一些问题，一个就是创造力是什么，还有创造力是个很可能的艺术。这句话呢，大家可能听不太懂，我等会儿解释。还有就是我也可以有创造力嘛，然后我如何让比现在更有创造力？核心是这句话，就大家认为创造力啊，它不是可以锻炼，不像是举重或者跑步，我练1个月就比原来好一些。大家可能认为创造力是无法提高的，但实际上 Foster 会讲我们大家怎么提升自己的创造力，即使你是一个没有创造基因的人。
So that way, I'm going to switch with you again, because then when I switched, I didn't think that I didn't have a computer. So let me tell you what I don't think creativity is. This is not creativity. This is not an example of creativity. This is just an example of a mess, where somebody said they wanted to transport their family and they could do it all together. This has no practical value. It's fun, it's amusing, but it isn't creativity.
这幅图表达的呢，没有展现出所谓的创造力，这是把几个毫无联系的事情堆积到一起，产生了一个没有价值的新事情，所以这不是创造力。
Our notions of creativity, however, started very early in the history of mankind. And you can see this metaphorical picture thinking that creativity, when we all were created, and where did that all come from? And ever since that moment, we've been trying to understand it.
这是一个很有解释性和说明性的一幅图，想展示似乎每一个人都是创造力的，每个人都是可以理解创造力。
So let me give you some of the earliest examples I know of creativity. This is an impression of an insect repellent net that was found in a South African cave that's dated to 77,000 years before Christ, 79,000 years ago. In 79,000 years ago, they were able to find grass that had mosquito-resistant properties, and they used that grass to make bedding so that they could sleep without mosquitoes.
人类历史从人类可以叫做直立行走的智人的那一瞬间开始就有了创造力。这是公元前77000年在西非的出土的文物。当时的人类呢，刚刚开始直立行走，他们发现蚊虫是它生存的重大障碍，所以他把很多有抗蚊作用的草编织在一起一个床垫儿，这就是那个床垫儿的一个创造力。
So this is 77,000 years ago. People had a problem. They were being kept awake at night by mosquitoes. They made an association with something that no one would ever think about having to do with mosquitoes, that is grass. They put those two things together and solved their problem.
所以创造力第一个特点是把两个毫不相关的事情放在一起。77000年人们没想到把蚊子直接给捕捉掉，反而想到一个看似毫无关系的东西，就是一种具有驱动的草。草和蚊子是没有直接关系的，但是他用草联想到可以驱蚊，制造了这个驱蚊作用的床垫。
43,000 years ago, musical instruments, flutes, were being made, and people were playing music. 44,000 years ago. Recorded history goes back 5,000 years. This is 40,000 years before that. People were playing music.
这个是公元前2万多年，大概4万多年，这是我记得去年出土的。4万年前，大概人类最早的一个乐器是从德国，那就是高卢和德意志那边出土的一个骨制的长笛。
40,000 years ago, handprints were being made in caves in Spain. We now believe that these handprints were actually made by Neanderthals as a pre-human species, but that's 43,000 years ago.
所以这个是在西班牙，大概是4万年前的一个传统的壁画。
Moving forward to the 28th century BC, the story of Gilgamesh is the first great first epic story we know of in the West, and this was the story about the great Syrian king Gilgamesh, who was reported to be a giant 30 feet tall. But this was an epic novel that was written in 2500 BC.
这个28000多年以前，在中东和近东的两河流域，这个吉尔加美什人的传说中已经写了很多关于战争和瘟疫的壁画，还有故事。
In Greek history, Homer is the most famous author. We now believe that Homer wasn't a person. Homer was a group of people who collectively authored